The Second World War saw a significant number of executions that took place on the battlefield. Following the German military's onslaught across several regions, execution squads would wreak havoc and destruction. Numerous German military victims have been forgotten, and regrettably, many of them are still lying unharmed near the sites of their deaths, their tales untold. In order to subdue the populace, the Germans employed terror tactics. The Gestapo gathered up and tortured and questioned everyone who shown any kind of dissension or disagreement to Hitler and the dictatorship. This frequently resulted in their being taken to concentration camps or, worse, prisons where they were put to death after unfair trials. Ordinary people were thrust into the heart of the worst wars in history and the world throughout this period. However, there was one group of women that faced severe persecution during the war, and the Gestapo brutally executed 11 nuns despite the fact that they were extremely gentle and innocent religious women. Come examine the horrifying killings of the 11 nuns who defied Hitler with us today. Please remember to subscribe in order to support our channel. The Blessed Martyrs or the 11 Nuns were other names for the Nowogrodzic martyrs. They belonged to the Polish Catholic religious order known as the Sisters of the Holy Family of Nazareth. In 1929, the order's sisters came to Nowogrodzic, which was then a part of the Second Polish Republic. The local bishop had called them to the area, and the sisters were well respected and formed an integral part of the community once they got there. As anticipated, they led a very quiet life filled with prayer, religious reflection, and community service, and the nuns were well liked by the villagers. However, upheaval and violence would be brought to their congregation's doorstep as the Second World violence broke out. Hitler planned to invade Poland on September 1, 1939, working with the Soviet Union at the time. Many people thought that there would be peace between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union for a while because Stalin and Hitler had agreed a week earlier, after the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact was signed, to divide Poland between the two countries and to sign a non-aggression pact. Poland would soon be conquered by the Germans and incorporated into Hitler's Third Reich after the Germans invaded it from the north, south, and west. The nuns' base, Nowogrodzic, was located in the Kary region of pre-war Poland in 1939. Currently, it is in central Belarus. The Soviet Union annexed this, which was then incorporated into the Soviet Socialist Republic of Belarus. However, as Operation Barbarossa began in 1941, the German troops took control of the town. Hitler betrayed Stalin and began his onslaught against the Soviet Union for breaking their earlier agreement. Stalin failed to foresee the invasion, and Hitler's tanks swept into Soviet territory, driving the Red Army back and causing them to suffer severe casualties. Since the nuns and priests were accused of opposing Hitler, they would frequently be taken in for questioning while the sisters lived under German control, and many Catholics suffered persecution during this period. Hitler disapproved of some religious sects and ideas because he believed that their allegiance was primarily to God rather than to him, and many people found it difficult to embrace Hitler and his political party over their religious convictions. However, the nuns of Nowogrodzic carried on with their work despite the German occupation, participating in the daily administration of the town's church services and assisting with their preparation. Many people who were being mistreated and persecuted found solace and hope in the prayers they offered, and as the Nazis intensified their persecution within the community, things became much worse. Before the war, around half of the 20,000 residents were Jewish, but the Nazis intensified their anti-Semitic activities in 1942. However, during a series of atrocities, the Germans killed almost 9,500 Jews in mass executions. The remaining 550 were taken to concentration camps, where many of them perished from the appalling treatment and conditions. Additionally, the Polish populace was arrested on multiple occasions, and 2 local Catholic priests were detained before being put to death. The town's women implored the nuns and sisters to pray for the prisoners' health and release while dozens of them were being put to death. After that, the sisters gathered and resolved to try to rescue additional lives inside the town by doing something heroic. They made the decision to try and give their lives to the Nazis as a sacrifice for the Gestapo's inmates, and they were prepared to die like martyrs to preserve the lives of others. "My God," remarked Sister Maria Stella in a conversation with the local pastor, "accept it from us if life sacrifice is required and spare those who have families. Even now, we are praying for this goal." Surprisingly, this resulted in a different fate for the detainees. Some were released, while others were deported to labor camps instead of being slated for execution. "There is a greater need for a priest on this earth than for us," the sisters remarked as they once again surrendered their lives to the Gestapo in response to the local pastor's life being in danger. "If a life sacrifice is required, we hope that God will replace him." However, the nuns would sadly and horribly accept the offer from the Gestapo, who would then brutally murder them. The Gestapo chief gave the nuns instructions to go to the local police station on July 31, 1943. After spending the night under lock and key, they were loaded into a vehicle and driven just outside the town's limits the next morning. About 3 miles from the town, the 11 nuns and the 11 women were huddled together in a peaceful area of the woods. The nuns were all executed right there when the Gestapo officers suddenly opened fire with their machine guns. The 11 women were buried in a communal grave by the Gestapo after the shooting ended swiftly and the women were covered with bullets. Sister Banis, who eventually found the nuns' burial, was the only nun who stayed at the church to look after it. She would silently tend to it over the years. Sister M. Stella of the Blessed Sacrament, 54, Sister Imelda, 50, Sister M. Richmunda, 50, Sister Daniela, 48, Sister Canuta, 47, Sister Guidona, 43, Sister Sergia, 42, Sister Canizja, 39, Sister Felicitita, 37, Sister Heliodora, 37, and the youngest person executed, 26-year-old Sister Borromea, were the 11 sisters who were murdered and put to death. Pope John Paul would subsequently beatify the 11 sisters in 2000 when it was shown that they were martyrs who gave their lives in defense of the Catholic religion. In the terrible tale of the nuns of Novogrodek, 11 sisters sacrificed their lives to protect others from the Nazi dictatorship. The Nazis chose, for whatever reason, to accept the women's request and kill them rather than some of the inmates. The nuns' story is one that should be told and remembered because of their extraordinary bravery and willingness to give their lives for others. Thank you for viewing. In order to help our channel, please remember to subscribe. Thank you once more for seeing.